am Shelby, 34 years old, and last night, the extravagant gala I paid for became my greatest humiliation. You'd think after years of navigating financial mazes for others, predicting market downturns, and crafting fortunes from whispers and trends, I could handle my own family. Yet moments after the champagne corks popped and the music softened beneath glittering chandeliers, my proudest achievement turned into my harshest reality check. My success had long been my burden. It was funny, really. Building a thriving career as a financial advisor should have made my life easier. Instead, it chained me tighter to my family's expectations. The money I'd painstakingly earned became the center of a bitter conflict at our annual family gala, when my parents and siblings demanded I publicly pledge continued, unwavering financial support. My quiet refusal provoked an outrage that sliced through the glamour like a hot blade through butter. "You ungrateful brat!" my mother hissed loudly, her voice vibrating with barely contained fury. The room fell deathly silent, all eyes fixated on the drama unfolding like a train wreck you can't help but watch. "After all we've done for you, you dare refuse?" A ripple of whispers surged through the room, guests exchanging scandalized glances, their crystal glasses suspended in midair. I stood frozen, not from embarrassment, but from a sudden clarity piercing the fog of obligation I'd lived under for too long. I felt nothing of the shame they intended, only a rising determination to reclaim my self-worth. But before I tell you how that chaotic night reshaped my entire existence, let me know where you're watching from. And hit subscribe if you've ever had to overcome family pressure, because you have no idea what I decided to do once I finally broke free. It hadn't always been this dramatic. Growing up, I was the perpetual afterthought. Our family was large, loud, and fiercely competitive, with every sibling measured by traditional yardsticks of success. Careers in medicine, law, and education were celebrated at every gathering. My role as the quiet financial advisor, though lucrative, was misunderstood. At best, I was seen as a convenient ATM, at worst an oddball who played with numbers instead of people. Yet every month without fail, my parents' mortgage, my younger sister's lavish wedding, my brother's legal fees for yet another failed business venture, all quietly covered by my earnings. No thanks, no acknowledgement, just expectations piled higher year after year. The gala was supposed to change that. It was my chance to shine, a rare moment to receive acknowledgement for once instead of bills. I'd carefully planned every detail, from the opulent venue adorned with silk banners to a gourmet menu designed to impress. I wanted them to finally see me beyond their expectations. But expectations, especially within families like mine, are like quicksand. The more you struggle to meet them, the deeper you're pulled under. From the moment my family arrived, they took charge, belittling my efforts even as they sampled champagne and savored the lobster. My brother Garrett, suave in his tailored suit, smirked dismissively at the elegant ice sculpture centerpiece I'd personally commissioned. "Looks expensive, Shelby," he drawled, swirling his drink. "You sure you could afford all this without cutting into our allowance?" The table erupted into laughter, sharp, brittle, mocking. It stung, a familiar burn I'd felt countless times. But tonight, something shifted inside me, an ember flaring brighter, refusing to fade. As dinner progressed, the tension thickened. Every toast felt like a jab, each compliment laced with sarcasm. Then the tipping point arrived. My mother rose from her seat, glass raised, and in front of everyone, demanded that I confirm, here and now, my continued support. The room hushed, eager ears tilted, hungry for drama. I looked at my family, their faces smug, confident I'd cave under public pressure. But this time, I couldn't comply. Instead, with calm resolve, I shook my head and whispered firmly, "No." That single syllable detonated like a bomb, instantly transforming me from benefactor to enemy. Gasps echoed around the room as my mother's face twisted with betrayal. The storm in her eyes spoke louder than words ever could. Yet, the humiliation she'd intended to inflict didn't come. Instead, I felt an intoxicating surge of strength. Finally, the years of resentment, hidden behind compliant smiles and endless transfers of money, crystallized into a single powerful resolution. I was done being their personal ATM, done playing their games. From now on, the rules would change, and it would be my turn to rewrite them. Growing up invisible is a strange thing. It's not like being hated or openly despised. Those feelings, at least, imply some kind of acknowledgement. Instead, my invisibility was subtle, quiet, and relentless. It lived in moments my family thought were inconsequential, but for me they carved deep trenches in my memory. I remember vividly the day I graduated from business school, top of my class, the highest distinction awarded. As I walked across the stage, the auditorium ringing with applause from strangers, my eyes sought out my family's faces in the audience. My heart sank when I finally spotted them. My dad fiddling with his phone, my mom whispering impatiently to my sister Holly about dinner reservations, Garrett yawning theatrically. They didn't even glance up when my name echoed through the speakers. Not until the polite applause snapped them awake long enough to offer a cursory, hollow clap. The sting of that moment was sharp but familiar, a sensation I'd felt countless times before. In contrast, when Garrett graduated law school, barely scraping by, might I add, the family went all out. My mother wept tears of pride, smearing mascara across her cheeks as she hugged him tightly, repeatedly telling anyone who'd listen how brilliant he was. We celebrated at a lavish restaurant, where my parents eagerly footed a bill nearly matching my monthly salary, a salary they happily overlooked until they needed a bailout. Then there was Holly's wedding, an extravaganza planned meticulously by my mother, from the opulent venue to the designer dress imported from Italy. They lavished praise on every minor detail Holly chose. Her decisions were insightful, elegant, inspired. Yet when I financed the honeymoon suite at a 5-star resort in Bali as a surprise wedding gift, the acknowledgement was fleeting, reduced to a quick hug and a hurried "thank you," drowned out by the wedding march. Over the years, the pattern grew increasingly clear. My family's affection wasn't unconditional, it was transactional. As long as my contributions flowed silently, invisibly, everything was fine. The moment I sought recognition, I became inconvenient, a bothersome detail best forgotten. My career achievements, significant as they were, always paled next to Garrett's courtroom dramas or Holly's domestic triumphs. At dinners and holidays, conversations inevitably shifted toward their lives, their successes, their stories. Mine were met with polite boredom at best, impatience at worst. My mother's voice would subtly harden, shifting focus to something more interesting whenever I mentioned financial advising. "You know, numbers give me a headache, Shelby," she'd sigh dramatically, signaling everyone at the table to swiftly pivot to another topic. I learned to accept this reality, to swallow the disappointment quietly. My role was clearly defined, written in invisible ink. I was the provider, the silent guardian of their financial well-being, expected never to demand the spotlight, never to ask for anything in return. Yet beneath that compliance, resentment simmered. It simmered as I quietly transferred money for Garrett's latest business failure, a venture everyone praised as bold, even as it drained my accounts. It simmered when Holly proudly announced she'd quit yet another job because it didn't fulfill her passions, confident I'd quietly step in and cover her bills until the next whim struck. And all along, no one noticed the quiet empire I was building, meticulously and secretly, after long hours at the office. While my family enjoyed the fruits of my labor, assuming it limitless and effortless, I worked late nights, strategized relentlessly, and crafted deals that transformed whispers of opportunity into fortunes. Yet still no praise came, no acknowledgement, only silent expectation. It was as if my success didn't exist if it wasn't directly servicing their needs. One evening during a family gathering, I dared to briefly mention a major investment deal I'd recently secured, a deal that would have made headlines if I'd been anyone else. Garrett smirked, dismissing it with a flippant wave of his wine glass. "Shelby, it's just moving numbers around," he laughed, eyes sparkling mockingly. "Try arguing a case before a jury. Now that takes skill." The table erupted in supportive laughter, clinking glasses and agreeing loudly. My chest tightened, yet I smiled softly, burying yet another blow beneath layers of practiced acceptance. But last night, standing amid the glittering extravagance of a gala I'd carefully crafted and fully funded, all those years of quiet pain, of invisibility, began to shift. The sting of past dismissals hardened into determination, preparing me for the moment I'd finally refuse to be unseen. Because sometimes invisibility isn't weakness, it's camouflage, hiding something powerful, waiting patiently to be revealed. I still vividly recall the night my secret took root. The night I decided enough was enough. It was late, the city glowing softly beneath my office window, a sea of lights unaware of my restless pacing. My desk was cluttered with documents, forecasts, and strategies, all carefully hidden beneath innocuous file folders labeled miscellaneous and pending. I'd become a master of disguise, a chameleon blending effortlessly into a family that saw me only as their convenient financial lifeline. But that night was different. Something cracked open inside me, call it frustration, exhaustion, or simply a craving to finally be visible. Whatever it was, it shattered my complacency and awakened something powerful. It started with an innocuous email, one I'd nearly overlooked. A potential client, reclusive billionaire named Edie Wilkins, eccentric, sharp, notoriously difficult, was quietly looking for someone to manage her expansive wealth. Every major firm had tried to court her and failed. She wanted someone genuine, someone bold and discreet. It was precisely the type of challenge I'd secretly longed for, and yet instinct told me this was a turning point, an opportunity too significant to ignore. On impulse, I replied, sending not a sterile corporate response, but something honest, something raw. "I've spent my career being invisible," I wrote simply. "I understand how powerful that invisibility can be. Let's talk." 2 days later, Edie Wilkins herself walked into my office, silver-haired, dressed impeccably, her sharp gaze cutting straight through the formalities. I braced myself for rejection. Instead, she smiled knowingly and extended her hand. "Most people see invisibility as weakness," she said firmly. "But you and I know better. Let's turn yours into your greatest strength." Working with Edie changed everything. Her portfolio wasn't just massive, it was visionary, eclectic, daring. Under her watchful eye, I learned quickly, fearlessly, stepping into high-risk markets and uncovering hidden opportunities others were too timid to approach. My confidence grew quietly, yet profoundly. Each successful investment, each meticulous deal, became bricks in the foundation of something powerful, my own empire, unseen by anyone but Edie and myself. Meanwhile, my family remained blissfully unaware, continuing their comfortable pattern of expectation. Every month, bills appeared, obligations mounted, and I silently paid them, each transfer reinforcing their assumption that nothing had changed. But beneath that calm surface, my determination hardened. I started quietly diverting funds, not from their expected payments, but from my extra earnings, pouring them into my burgeoning enterprise. Every late-night negotiation, every intense analysis session added strength to a secret network of investments steadily blossoming beneath their noses. My strategy evolved slowly, purposefully. With Edie's encouragement, I gradually moved away from merely advising the wealthy and began quietly acquiring stakes in promising startups, niche industries, and overlooked markets. It felt thrillingly rebellious, a quiet act of defiance against the constraints of invisibility. Yet the tension between secrecy and openness weighed heavily. I often fantasized about the day I'd finally reveal my success, about the shock on their faces when they realized their quiet, overlooked Shelby had become something formidable. One evening, after securing a particularly risky deal, an innovative tech startup everyone else had dismissed, I sat with Edie in her sprawling penthouse, the city skyline glittering below us. "Your family," she began carefully, swirling her glass of Cabernet thoughtfully, "they truly don't know anything?" I laughed softly, bitterly. "They barely notice when I'm in the room, Edie. Why would they notice what I'm quietly building?" She nodded slowly, her eyes sharp with understanding. "There's strength in hiding, Shelby, but remember, the sweetest revenge isn't success alone, it's claiming it openly and fearlessly." Her words stuck with me, haunting my thoughts as my secret success grew increasingly impossible to hide. My empire was expanding rapidly, drawing attention from serious investors quietly making waves beneath the surface. Yet my family continued living in blissful ignorance, comfortably certain that Shelby would always dutifully deliver. As the gala approached, I debated endlessly with myself. Should I reveal everything there, publicly? Could I finally step out of the shadows, demanding the acknowledgement I'd always craved? The risk terrified me, not the risk of financial ruin, but the risk of exposure, of vulnerability. My strength had always been my invisibility, my careful camouflage. Yet now that camouflage was suffocating. In the end, the decision wasn't mine to make. Instead, fate intervened, brutally forcing me out of hiding with a humiliation that would ultimately free me. Standing beneath the glittering chandeliers of the gala I'd carefully orchestrated and financed, my family's casual cruelty became the catalyst. Not for my downfall, but for my liberation. They had no idea the secret I'd kept, the empire I'd quietly built beneath their noses. But they would soon discover it, and so would the world. The morning of the gala, I woke with dread churning in my stomach, a feeling that had become all too familiar whenever family events loomed on my calendar. Yet today felt different. Heavier. The weight of years of quiet resentment and hidden success pressed on me, mingled with anticipation for the pivotal business deal I'd been nurturing for months. My reflection stared back at me from the bathroom mirror, tired eyes betraying the tension I'd been hiding behind practiced smiles. I wondered, briefly, if my family ever felt this same anxiety before our gatherings, or if their privilege of being unconditionally celebrated insulated them from such discomfort. But there was no time to dwell. Today was not only about surviving another night of veiled insults and forced smiles, it was the culmination of years of relentless strategy and quiet ambition. If tonight went as planned, my financial advising empire would secure a transformative investment, one powerful enough to permanently alter the landscape of my life. Edie had been instrumental in connecting me to a network of influential investors, including Bryce Carver, an enigmatic tech billionaire, notorious for his ruthless discernment. I'd spent weeks meticulously preparing my presentation, fine-tuning every detail to perfection. Our meeting was scheduled just hours before the gala, a daunting combination, but necessary, I convinced myself. The deal had the potential to not only elevate my business but to finally force acknowledgement from my family. The entire morning was consumed by preparation, last-minute revisions, strategic calls, and calming breaths. My phone buzzed constantly with reminders from my assistant, messages from Edie, and casual demands from my siblings, oblivious to the high stakes quietly swirling around me. "Hey Shelby, can you cover the limo cost tonight? You know Mom will freak if we don't arrive in style." Holly's text popped up, casual entitlement dripping from every word. I sighed, pressing the confirm button for the limousine booking without bothering to reply. Each small concession felt like another brick placed on the growing wall between who I'd always been expected to be and who I desperately wanted to become. By early afternoon, dressed impeccably in my finest tailored suit, nerves simmering beneath the surface, I arrived at the pristine, glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. Bryce Carver sat waiting, steely-eyed yet surprisingly welcoming. The air crackled with tension, the weight of potential and possibility heavy in the silence before we began. I launched into my presentation with practiced ease, outlining strategies, potential outcomes, and hidden opportunities I'd meticulously researched. Bryce listened carefully, occasionally scribbling notes, expression unreadable. My heart raced, anxiety and adrenaline intertwining dangerously. When I finished, silence stretched endlessly. I felt exposed, vulnerable, exactly the opposite of the invisible shell I'd spent years cultivating. Finally, Bryce leaned forward, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. "Shelby," he began quietly, "your vision is extraordinary. But what convinces me isn't your figures or forecasts, it's you. I see someone who's built strength from invisibility. That's rare." My pulse thundered in my ears, stunned disbelief washing over me. Bryce Carver was notoriously selective. His endorsement meant more than just money. It signified legitimacy, recognition, the very acknowledgement I'd craved for so long. "I'm in," he declared firmly, extending his hand. "Consider your company backed. Public announcement tonight?" I hesitated, thoughts racing. My family's gala would be filled with potential investors, socialites, and press, a perfect stage for such an announcement. But revealing my success publicly, especially in front of my family, felt terrifyingly vulnerable. Still, wasn't this the moment I'd secretly dreamed about for years, the opportunity to step out from invisibility and claim the acknowledgement I'd earned? With trembling confidence, I nodded. "Tonight. Let's announce it." As I walked away from the meeting, adrenaline surged, victory mixing oddly with anxiety. My phone pinged, dragging me back into reality. Garrett again. "Shelby, Mom wants to confirm you're paying for everything tonight. Venue, catering, all of it. Don't embarrass us." Bitterness burned sharply, yet I found myself smiling grimly at the irony. They had no idea what tonight would actually mean, for me or for them. When evening came, I approached the gala venue, a luxurious hotel ballroom shimmering with extravagant lights and bustling with finely dressed guests. My pulse quickened with each step. It felt surreal, this glamorous setting I'd financed completely, a monument to family prestige built silently on my sacrifices. My family stood at the entrance, bright smiles masking their simmering entitlement. My mother immediately stepped forward, fussing over my appearance, her gaze sharply critical even as she leaned in for an air kiss. "Remember, Shelby," she whispered harshly, eyes glittering. "Don't embarrass the family." The warning hung thickly between us, punctuating her carefully manicured expectations. But tonight, I realized, wouldn't be about avoiding embarrassment. It would be about finally embracing visibility, publicly and unapologetically. I inhaled sharply, squaring my shoulders. The gala awaited, a stage set perfectly for revelation and reckoning. Tonight, the invisible would finally become unforgettable. Walking into the ballroom felt like stepping onto a battlefield draped in silk and pearls. The glittering chandeliers overhead cast a dazzling, almost surreal glow onto elegantly dressed guests, their laughter and chatter blending seamlessly with the gentle hum of classical music. The room radiated prestige, comfort, and glamour, every bit the perfect setting for my family's extravagant taste. Yet, as always, beneath the sparkling veneer lay a simmering tension, waiting patiently to slice into me with precision timing. I felt it immediately as I approached my family's table, set conspicuously in the center of the room, the heart of attention. My mother's carefully constructed smile faltered just enough to reveal a flicker of irritation at my arrival. "Shelby, dear," she began, voice dripping with forced sweetness, "I almost worried you wouldn't show. Fashionably late, are we?" A ripple of amused chuckles echoed around the table, each family member's eyes glinting with barely hidden disdain. Garrett lounged back in his chair, swirling expensive bourbon with a smug ease. Holly fixed a critical gaze on my attire, lips twisted in subtle disapproval. Even Dad managed a small, dismissive nod, always aloof, always carefully detached. "I had some important business," I replied softly, sliding smoothly into my chair, heart hammering beneath the polished calm I presented. "But it's all sorted now?" "Business?" Garrett drawled, mockingly stretching the word as if tasting something unpleasant. "Still playing around with your spreadsheets, Shelby?" The table laughed again, quiet and sharp-edged, each chuckle aimed carefully to wound. My fingers curled involuntarily into the linen tablecloth beneath the table, hidden from their critical eyes. For years, this was how they'd thrived, subtle digs wrapped neatly in politeness, cutting deeper precisely because of their camouflage. But tonight, something within me refused to cower beneath their ridicule. The empowering weight of Bryce Carver's endorsement pressed gently against my anxiety, anchoring me with newfound confidence. "Actually," I replied calmly, eyes steadily meeting Garrett's challenge, "it's far more than spreadsheets." His eyebrows rose briefly, amusement shifting to irritation at my uncharacteristic pushback. Before he could respond, my mother swiftly interjected, eager to maintain control. "Oh, come now, let's not ruin this lovely evening with dull business talk," she declared brightly, eyes locked firmly onto mine in silent warning. "We all know how stressful it is for Shelby to discuss her little projects." The word little landed exactly as intended, diminutive and belittling. But tonight, rather than shrinking beneath her carefully chosen insult, I smiled softly, almost sympathetically. She had no idea how spectacularly her assumptions would soon unravel. Dinner proceeded as expected, luxurious courses served impeccably, interspersed with seemingly innocent conversation designed specifically to highlight my siblings' accomplishments, while subtly erasing mine. Holly excitedly recounted her latest career pivot, enthusiastically praised by my parents for her bravery in leaving yet another position. Garrett smugly shared anecdotes from the courtroom, basking in my father's proud approval. And then, inevitably, the conversation circled back to me, this time framed openly, directly. "So, Shelby," my mother said with theatrical cheerfulness, raising her wineglass to command attention, "since you've done so well for yourself, isn't it time to assure us all about your plans to support the family moving forward?" The room quieted instantly, nearby tables subtly leaning closer, sensing drama in the offing. My mother's eyes glittered triumphantly, confident that social pressure would ensure my compliance. My throat tightened briefly, familiar panic surging momentarily, but then Bryce Carver's confident voice echoed quietly in my memory. "Your vision is extraordinary." The panic dissipated, replaced by clear resolve. I met my mother's expectant gaze, feeling a quiet strength rising from within. "Actually, Mother," I began calmly, voice steady despite the pounding of my heart, "I think it's time we reconsider how things have been done." Gasps rippled softly through the surrounding audience, intrigued whispers rapidly circulating. My mother's carefully constructed smile slipped slightly, eyes widening in disbelief. "Excuse me?" she breathed, voice dangerously soft. "I've supported this family quietly for years," I continued firmly, the entire table frozen in shock at my unprecedented boldness. "But I think it's become clear, it's no longer appreciated. Maybe it's time I stopped." The silence thickened heavily, oppressive and charged. Garrett's smug expression hardened, Holly looked panicked, and my father's aloof mask cracked briefly into genuine shock. Then, swiftly and brutally, the polite facade shattered completely. "You selfish, ungrateful child," my mother hissed sharply, her voice echoing clearly through the ballroom, carrying unmistakably to every guest. "After everything we've done for you, after all our sacrifices." The venom in her words stung deeply, designed explicitly to humiliate and punish. Yet tonight, as the room buzzed with scandalized whispers, I felt not shame, but clarity, an intoxicating certainty that this was precisely the moment I'd unknowingly prepared for all along. Tonight, I wouldn't shrink. Tonight, I was done playing their game. Tonight, their contempt had finally gone too far. In the electrified silence that followed my mother's outburst, my family exchanged sharp, tense glances, silently coordinating their next move. It felt like an eternity, passed within seconds as the room hung in expectant stillness. Then, my father cleared his throat, a deep, resonant sound, and rose deliberately from his chair, commanding attention. The entire room watched, breath held, as he stood, tall, dignified, authoritative, every inch the respected patriarch he'd always presented himself to be. His gaze swept over the guests, deliberately pausing on me before settling with a cold resolve that sent chills cascading down my spine. "My apologies to everyone," he began, voice measured and polished. "But our family has always valued honesty and integrity. It pains me deeply to have to address this publicly, but it seems Shelby has left us little choice." My pulse quickened dangerously, panic crawling up my throat as I recognized the cold finality in his voice. My father's mastery of social theater was unrivaled. Whatever he was about to say would undoubtedly mark me permanently. "Over the years, our family has provided Shelby with unconditional love, support, and opportunities," he continued, smooth yet deliberately harsh. "And yet, tonight, she made it painfully clear that her priorities lie solely with herself. Therefore, it's with great sorrow that I announce our decision. Shelby is officially cut off from the family." Gasps erupted across the ballroom, murmurs spreading like wildfire through the glittering audience. Faces blurred in my vision, a whirlpool of shock and judgment swirling around me. Despite knowing their reliance on my finances, the hypocrisy of their proclamation felt nauseatingly surreal. Garrett smirked cruelly, Holly looked away with false sadness, and my mother folded her arms triumphantly, chin lifted in righteous indignation. To them, I was the villain, ungrateful, selfish, and deserving of this public humiliation. My breath felt strangled, heart hammering painfully in my chest. Yet beneath the panic and humiliation, anger surged fiercely. They were cutting me off? After all these years of silently shouldering their extravagant lifestyle, financing their dreams, swallowing endless insults, they were the ones to disown me? Yet, my family wasn't finished. Garrett stood theatrically, playing perfectly into the spectacle. "Honestly, Shelby, it's a relief," he sneered, voice dripping with contempt. "Now we can finally stop pretending your little hobby ever mattered." A ripple of nervous laughter passed around the room, scandalized yet thoroughly captivated by the family drama unfolding so publicly. Garrett relished the spotlight, playing masterfully into the role of justified sibling, wronged by the ingratitude of an unappreciative sister. "All that wasted money on pointless projects," Holly added bitterly, twisting the knife deeper. "It's about time we faced reality." Every biting comment sliced into me deeply, meticulously crafted to wound. Yet amidst the humiliation, clarity began to crystallize, a startling realization of just how dependent they'd become on my silent, invisible generosity. Now stripped of their greatest resource, how long could their facade of privilege truly last? Still, standing alone, exposed beneath harsh, glittering chandeliers, the humiliation felt brutal, complete. I stood frozen, heart hammering painfully, struggling to find strength amid the sea of scandalized whispers and scornful glances. "Enough," my mother snapped sharply, voice echoing coldly. "Shelby, I think you should leave now. You've humiliated this family enough." The weight of her words settled heavily, the final dismissal ringing unmistakably, yet something deep within me refused to crumble beneath their cruelty. My chest tightened, the sharp sting of betrayal igniting a fierce protective fire. Slowly, I straightened my shoulders, lifting my chin defiantly. I'd allowed their abuse and entitlement for far too long. Tonight, they'd inadvertently handed me freedom wrapped in cruelty. Painful, yes, but liberating nonetheless. As I turned toward the exit, ignoring the whispers and scandalized looks, something unexpected cut through the silence. My phone buzzed insistently from my clutch. Heart racing, I paused, uncertain, instinctively glancing at the caller ID. My breath caught sharply in my throat. Bryce Carver. Suddenly, clarity surged through the humiliation. This was no ordinary call. Bryce never contacted anyone casually. Each call, each conversation was purposeful, strategic. Pulse quickening, I pressed the phone to my ear, ignoring the sharp intake of breath from my family behind me. "Shelby." Bryce's voice resonated powerfully, calm and confident. "I've got the media lined up. Are you ready to announce?" A surge of exhilaration rushed through me, the power of this moment undeniable, intoxicating. My gaze drifted back toward my family, smugly triumphant in their cruelty, certain they'd won. They had no idea how spectacularly wrong they were. "Yes," I replied, voice clear, steady, resolved. "I'm ready." And with that simple response, their game changed forever. Because finally, the invisible was about to step gloriously into the spotlight. Bryce's voice reverberated through my mind like a lifeline, his words restoring the clarity that had nearly slipped away under the crushing weight of humiliation. "I've got the media lined up. Are you ready to announce?" That single sentence echoed powerfully, anchoring me back to the reality of who I had become, far beyond the narrow confines of my family's cruel expectations. I turned slowly, my phone still pressed to my ear, feeling the room's gaze settle onto me once more. Curiosity, confusion, and barely disguised delight filled their faces as they waited eagerly for the next act of tonight's. My family's triumphant smugness shifted subtly, uncertainty flickering behind their carefully maintained masks. My mother frowned sharply, sensing control slipping from her grasp, while Garrett narrowed his eyes suspiciously, recognizing something unexpected in my renewed confidence. "Yes," I repeated into the phone, voice steady, unwavering, and deliberately loud enough for every nearby ear to catch. "I'm ready." Bryce wasted no time. His voice, calm yet commanding, resonated from my phone's speaker as I switched it to speakerphone without hesitation. The room hushed instantly, each guest straining eagerly to hear the mystery unfolding publicly. "Shelby," Bryce declared firmly, his words filling the grand ballroom with unmistakable authority, "I'm pleased to officially announce our investment partnership. Your firm, Invisio Financial, has successfully secured our backing and will now manage an investment portfolio valued at over $500 million. Shock surged visibly through the crowd, audible gasps punctuating Bryce's announcement. My family's faces paled dramatically, their smug confidence evaporating into stunned disbelief. Garrett's mouth dropped open slightly. Holly gripped the tablecloth anxiously, and my parents exchanged a wide-eyed glance, struggling to comprehend this revelation. Bryce continued, his voice unrelenting and clear. "Your vision, Shelby, is exactly what we've been searching for. Fearless, innovative, and exceptionally strong. We trust you'll make an immense impact on the industry. Congratulations." The call disconnected gently, leaving a silence so profound it echoed. The room buzzed with disbelief, whispers quickly escalating into shocked murmurs. My family's carefully orchestrated humiliation had abruptly reversed, leaving them exposed in a scandalous, humiliating reversal. Finally, the invisible daughter they'd dismissed as a financial convenience had emerged as a powerful force, impossible to ignore. I raised my gaze, deliberately meeting the shocked, uncertain stares of my family. My mother's lips were pressed tightly together, face pale with barely contained rage. Garrett glowered silently, clearly furious at the stunning reversal. Holly avoided eye contact entirely, visibly shrinking beneath the crushing weight of embarrassment. My father for once looked genuinely shaken. His carefully maintained composure shattered publicly, stripped of his self-assured dignity. "Shelby," he began stiffly, voice struggling to maintain its confident tone, "what is the meaning of this?" I smiled faintly, calm washing over me as I finally embraced the liberation of truth. "Exactly what it sounds like," I replied evenly, voice firm but gentle. "My little projects, as you call them, are actually an empire, built entirely without your acknowledgement or support." The ballroom stirred with excited whispers, nearby tables unabashedly staring, savoring the scandalous reversal unfolding openly. My family's discomfort radiated palpably, each shifting uneasily beneath the scrutiny they'd so casually inflicted upon me moments earlier. "You did this deliberately," my mother accused bitterly, voice shaking with barely controlled anger. "You set us up to humiliate us publicly." The irony wasn't lost on me, the accusation dripping with hypocrisy. Yet I shook my head gently, calm and composed. "No, Mother, I simply chose to finally stop hiding. The humiliation tonight wasn't my doing, it was yours." Before she could respond, a journalist, emboldened by the unfolding drama, approached hesitantly. "Miss Shelby," she began respectfully, eyes bright with curiosity, "could you elaborate on Envisio Financial's vision?" My family's outraged faces blurred into irrelevance, their cruel dominance erased by a single moment of vindication. The reporter's microphone was my invitation into visibility, finally and unequivocally. "Envisio is about empowering strength through strategic invisibility," I explained, voice clear and confident. "It's about seeing potential in overlooked opportunities, turning hidden strength into real, meaningful impact. Envisio's success tonight is proof that the unseen can indeed become unstoppable." The reporter nodded eagerly, scribbling notes furiously. Nearby guests listened openly, captivated, murmuring approval as my narrative unfolded publicly, powerfully reclaiming my story on my terms. My family stood silent, expressions strained, anger slowly morphing into embarrassment and panic. Their facade had fractured irreparably, shattered beneath the weight of my quiet strength and undeniable success. Finally, the invisible daughter they dismissed, humiliated and abandoned, had publicly emerged, stronger, visible, and unforgettable. As I turned toward the exit, guests moved respectfully aside, eyes filled with admiration, curiosity, and quiet approval. My steps were confident, my heart finally free from the invisible chains of expectation. Tonight was the beginning of truth, strength, and the unapologetic freedom of living openly, authentically, and powerfully myself. And for my family it was the end, their reign of entitlement collapsing spectacularly in the wake of a reality they'd never expected. Finally, the invisible had claimed its rightful spotlight, and there was no turning back. The stunned silence followed me out of the ballroom, broken only by the click of my heels against the polished marble floors. Each step echoed defiantly, leaving behind not just the shocked murmurs of guests but the shattered illusions of my family's entitlement. I felt strangely weightless, as though I'd shed a heavy coat I'd carried for years without realizing its burden. Yet, despite my exit, the chaos didn't cease. I heard the commotion ripple outward behind me, my family's carefully maintained social facade fracturing under scrutiny. Journalists surged eagerly toward their table, questions flying furiously, demanding clarity on how the supposedly wealthy, respected family had overlooked such staggering success, hidden right in front of them. My mother's shrill voice rose distinctly, outraged yet panicked. "We had no idea. Shelby never told us. She deliberately deceived her own family." A sharp pang briefly twisted in my chest at her swift betrayal, her desperation to save face instantly weaponizing our relationship publicly. Yet the sting faded quickly, replaced by quiet resolve. Her accusation rang hollow to my ears. They'd spent decades actively ignoring me. Now, ironically, their greatest defense was claiming ignorance. Garrett's voice rose sharply behind me, angry and defensive. "She used us for sympathy and then stabbed us in the back." I paused briefly, the accusation striking deeply, indignation sparking fiercely. Turning slowly, deliberately, I faced my family one last time from across the expansive ballroom, guests parting instinctively, sensing the tension crackling between us. My voice, clear yet measured, carried easily through the hushed space. Used you? I asked softly, raising an eyebrow calmly, projecting quiet strength. Every bill, every whim, every extravagant event, I paid without question, and still I was invisible to you. You demanded, I delivered, but you never once considered the cost. My mother's eyes widened sharply, panic swiftly replacing outrage as she realized her desperate attempt to control the narrative had spectacularly backfired. Garrett's anger faltered visibly, the ugly truth hanging heavily in the air. Holly looked away, shame evident, unable to face the uncomfortable reality of her complicity. Guests watched silently, their attention rapt, caught between the thrill of scandal and the unexpected honesty of my words. Yet beneath their voyeurism I sensed a shift, admiration replacing curiosity, understanding replacing judgment. Taking a breath, I continued steadily. I built my success despite you, not because of you. Every step forward was in defiance of your dismissal. My only mistake was hiding my achievements, hoping one day you'd finally see me. But tonight you've proven how futile that hope was. I paused briefly, letting the weight of my words settle powerfully. You haven't disowned me. I walked away from you the moment I decided to finally live visibly. The truth is, tonight you've lost far more than I ever could. Without waiting for their response, I turned resolutely away, leaving them stunned, speechless beneath the harsh truth of my calm, unapologetic revelation. Stepping into the cool night air, the city lights glittered softly, calm after the storm. I took a deep, cleansing breath, exhilaration mingling with relief. Edie stood waiting nearby, her silver hair illuminated softly by streetlights, expression proud and fiercely approving. You handled that beautifully, she praised warmly, offering a gentle, supportive smile. I exhaled softly, tension finally easing fully from my shoulders. It was overdue. Edie squeezed my arm gently, guiding me toward a waiting car, the sleek lines reflecting my newfound clarity. You know, she began thoughtfully, it takes incredible strength to walk away from family, even when they're harmful. Most never find the courage. Her words resonated deeply, affirming the difficult yet necessary path I'd chosen. It's strange, I admitted quietly, settling comfortably into the car, the luxurious interior wrapping gently around me. I expected bitterness or anger, but mostly I just feel free. She nodded knowingly, eyes sharp yet empathetic. Freedom often comes wrapped in the painful truth. As the car smoothly navigated the city streets, my phone buzzed insistently, messages flooding from friends, colleagues and industry peers, supportive, congratulatory, celebratory. Each notification reaffirmed my choice, washing away lingering traces of humiliation or doubt. Then, abruptly, a familiar name flashed insistently on my screen, Garrett. My pulse quickened, uncertainty briefly flickering through my newfound confidence. Yet curiosity outweighed caution, prompting me to answer, cautiously guarded. Shelby, he began hastily, voice tense yet noticeably softer. Look, I know tonight was intense, but maybe we rushed things. Mom and Dad are panicking, can't we? No, I interrupted calmly, my voice steady and firm. We can't. His silence stretched awkwardly, desperation clear yet unspoken. Finally, defeated, Garrett exhaled shakily. So that's it? I sighed softly, feeling compassion tempered by clarity. Tonight, Garrett, I finally saw my worth, independent of all of you. I refused to ever lose sight of it again. Disconnecting gently, I closed my eyes, the silence now peaceful, rather than oppressive. The weight of invisible chains I'd carried for decades had finally dissolved entirely, replaced by empowering clarity. Tonight wasn't merely about reclaiming dignity, it marked a profound shift, a permanent step toward freedom and authenticity. The invisible had finally become powerfully visible, undeniable, and permanent. I leaned back, feeling a deep, profound sense of calm settle within me. Tonight, I'd reclaimed far more than visibility. I'd reclaimed myself, and nothing would ever take that from me again. The contrast between the suffocating ballroom and the cozy warmth of Edie's penthouse was staggering. Soft, amber lamps cast gentle pools of light across plush furniture, creating an atmosphere of tranquil comfort. The city glittered quietly beyond expansive windows, distant yet reassuringly present, like an old friend offering silent, unwavering support. Waiting inside were the faces of genuine allies. Edie, of course, whose calm strength had quietly guided me, Bryce Carver, whose firm confidence had publicly validated my journey, and a small circle of close colleagues and friends who had quietly, fiercely supported my growth. This intimate gathering was everything the gala wasn't. Warm, sincere, supportive, and wonderfully free of judgment. "Here she is," Bryce announced warmly as I entered, rising gracefully from the couch, a genuine smile lighting his face. "The woman of the hour." Light applause erupted playfully, mingled with laughter and sincere congratulations. Unlike my family's tense, critical scrutiny, these faces glowed with genuine pride, their appreciation honest and unpretentious. Edie gently guided me toward the gathering, eyes sparkling. "Come celebrate properly. You've earned this, Shelby." Warmth filled my chest, genuine and unfamiliar, gently easing the tension I hadn't fully realized I still carried. Settling onto the comfortable couch, surrounded by friendly faces, I felt the invisible weight I'd carried for so long continue to dissipate. "I'm still processing," I admitted softly, smiling sheepishly at the circle of supportive faces. "Part of me can't believe tonight actually happened." Edie chuckled gently, passing a glass of rich, dark wine my way. "Believe it. Tonight, Shelby, you showed everyone, including yourself, exactly how powerful invisibility can become." I nodded slowly, absorbing her words, feeling their truth resonate deeply. Bryce leaned forward thoughtfully, swirling his glass gently, expression earnest, yet kind. "You know," he began thoughtfully, "the real power tonight wasn't just your announcement, it was the honesty behind it. People spend years pretending, hiding their strengths out of fear, but you chose authenticity, openly owning your story." My cheeks warmed softly, yet pride replaced embarrassment. "Honestly," I confessed quietly, "it wasn't bravery, it was necessity. Staying silent, hidden, compliant, it felt like suffocating." Bryce nodded firmly, his understanding clear. "Necessity is often courage disguised as desperation. Whatever pushed you tonight, Shelby, was exactly the force you needed." Murmurs of agreement rippled warmly around the room, each guest's expression sincere, their supportive presence comforting in its simplicity. Conversation flowed easily, relaxed yet insightful, moving effortlessly from business strategy to personal dreams. Every voice mattered equally. No competition, no veiled insults, no expectation except genuine, mutual respect. It was an astonishing revelation, this genuine warmth, this sincerity. For years, I'd mistaken my family's transactional relationships for normalcy. But tonight, surrounded by authentic connections, their toxicity stood starkly exposed, impossible to ignore. The evening wound peacefully onward, laughter mixing comfortably with earnest discussions. At one point, Edie raised her glass gently, eyes warmly locking onto mine, her voice soft yet powerful. "A toast," she began gently, commanding quiet attention, "to Shelby, the strongest person I know, whose invisibility finally became her greatest power." The room murmured agreement warmly, glasses clinking softly, the sincerity in their eyes gently overwhelming. Warmth blossomed deeply within my chest, quiet yet profoundly meaningful. This was true family, not biological ties bound by obligation, but relationships chosen freely, grounded firmly in authenticity and respect. After the toast, Bryce quietly approached, smiling warmly yet thoughtfully. "I imagine tomorrow will be hectic," he observed gently. "The media attention, the reactions from your family, it'll be intense. Are you ready?" I hesitated briefly, uncertainty flickering momentarily. Yet beneath that uncertainty, quiet resolve flared powerfully. "Yes," I replied steadily, voice firm yet gentle, "because for the first time I'll be facing it on my terms, openly and unapologetically." He nodded approvingly, eyes glowing warmly. "That's exactly why you'll succeed, Shelby." As the evening finally began winding down, gentle exhaustion mingled comfortably with profound peace. Edie lingered beside me, voice gentle yet firm, supportive yet understanding. "You know," she began softly, eyes thoughtfully distant, "tonight wasn't just about visibility or validation, it was about finally discovering your true worth, independent of anyone else's expectations." Her words resonated powerfully, profoundly meaningful, yet deceptively simple. I nodded quietly, absorbing their gentle truth. "I finally understand," I replied softly. "Validation can't come from outside, it has to come from within." She smiled approvingly, pride glowing gently in her eyes. "Exactly, and now, Shelby, you have that internal strength, the most powerful validation there is." Leaving the penthouse later that night, the city felt calm beneath the velvety night sky, the stars faintly visible through city lights. Walking quietly toward my waiting car, a profound sense of belonging and contentment settled deeply, powerfully within me. Tonight had finally shown me the truth I'd long ignored. Genuine family wasn't defined by blood or obligation. It was shaped gently, powerfully, by chosen bonds built authentically, sincerely, and unconditionally. And now, finally, that chosen family had found me, visible, valued, and entirely myself. For the first time, the future stretched openly ahead, not weighed down by expectation, but defined simply and powerfully by authenticity, strength, and quiet, undeniable self-worth. In the days that followed, my world shifted dramatically, but this time the shift was entirely mine to control. The buzz of media attention surged like a tidal wave, countless emails flooding my inbox, requests for interviews, partnership proposals, and eager invitations from people who'd previously dismissed my quiet presence. Yet, amidst this chaos, I felt strangely calm, anchored firmly in the empowering truth I'd finally embraced. My family's attempts to reconnect were initially relentless. My phone buzzed constantly. Calls, texts, and emails pleading, bargaining, even occasionally threatening. My mother oscillated between tearful apologies and scathing accusations. Garrett, predictably, tried manipulation through guilt, insisting our family would collapse without my support. While Holly's messages were quieter, tentative apologies wrapped awkwardly in defensiveness. Yet, each attempt at reconnection only solidified my resolve, revealing the depth of their entitlement and the toxic cycle they'd cultivate. With each ignored call, each polite yet firm rejection, my boundaries strengthened. Protective walls deliberately built not from bitterness, but from clarity and self-respect. Old acquaintances cautiously reapproached, often surprised yet pleased to discover my genuine warmth remained unchanged by success. Edie continued to guide gently, her support constant yet unobtrusive, offering quiet strength whenever uncertainty surfaced. One evening, comfortably settled in her penthouse, I expressed concern about possibly becoming harsh or cynical, losing kindness amidst strength. She chuckled softly, eyes warm yet knowing. "True strength never destroys kindness, Shelby. It protects it. You've always been kind, that hasn't changed. You've simply learned the importance of extending that kindness to yourself." Her gentle truth resonated deeply, quietly easing lingering anxiety. My boundaries weren't barriers, they were protective structures, firmly built yet permeable to sincerity, authenticity, and genuine care. Months passed, the new normal solidifying comfortably, each boundary respected, reinforcing my quiet confidence. Invisio Financial blossomed powerfully, its philosophy of strength through quiet determination deeply resonating with clients seeking authenticity in a world saturated with superficiality. Media interest gradually became manageable, comfortably navigated through quiet confidence and strategic openness. My family's attempts to reconnect dwindled significantly, finally accepting the permanence of my boundaries, if begrudgingly. Occasionally, Garrett's messages still appeared, filled with veiled bitterness, yet gradually fading into resigned silence. Yet, despite their resistance, my heart remained quietly open, hopeful they'd someday find courage for genuine reflection and growth. Until then, however, my boundaries remained firm, rooted deeply in self-respect, rather than bitterness or anger. One crisp evening, standing on my balcony overlooking the vibrant city below, twilight softly illuminating the horizon, I felt profound peace, a sensation I'd rarely experienced before. Each gentle breeze seemed to affirm my choices, whispering quiet encouragement, reinforcing my clarity and resolve. This was my fortress, built carefully from honesty, authenticity, and quiet strength. A fortress protecting not only my professional success, but my emotional peace, my genuine connections, and my unwavering commitment to living truthfully. For the first time, boundaries felt like freedom, not limitation. And I knew, without doubt, that I'd never compromise that freedom again. As months evolved into a full year, the ripples created by Invizio Financial's breakthrough continued spreading far beyond my personal narrative. The company flourished quietly yet powerfully, our philosophy resonating deeply within an industry accustomed to noisy bravado. Clients flocked to our authenticity, trusting the sincerity at our core. Invizio wasn't simply thriving, it was transforming lives. With newfound success came the profound opportunity I'd long craved. Not merely financial growth, but meaningful impact. My boundaries remained strong, protecting me emotionally and professionally, freeing me to finally channel my resources into purposeful endeavors, reclaiming the very family name I'd once considered an anchor rather than an asset. Inspired by my own journey from invisibility to empowerment, I launched Project Visible, an initiative designed specifically to provide financial guidance, resources, and mentorship to overlooked individuals. Our first major event, a citywide conference, brought together talented young entrepreneurs, struggling professionals, and visionaries previously silenced by circumstance or self-doubt. Standing on stage before hundreds of eager, hopeful faces, people who, like me, had spent too long hidden, I finally understood the true legacy I wanted to create. It wasn't merely wealth or recognition, it was impact, purpose, and empowerment rooted deeply in authenticity. After my speech concluded, the audience erupted warmly, their applause sincere and overwhelming. As I descended the stage surrounded by grateful, enthusiastic participants eager to share their stories, my assistant whispered gently that someone was waiting quietly to speak privately. I turned curiously, heart quickening slightly as I saw Holly standing hesitantly near the stage entrance. Her expression was anxious yet determined, completely devoid of the entitlement or defensiveness I'd come to expect. Instinctively, I felt protective caution flicker briefly yet gently, curiosity prompting me forward. "Shelby," Holly began softly, voice unsteady yet genuine, eyes pleading quietly. I know I'm probably the last person you expected tonight." I nodded gently, indicating she continue, cautious yet willing to listen. She exhaled shakily, voice quiet yet deeply sincere. "This past year has been eye-opening. Painful, actually. Losing you, the way we treated you, it forced me to really look at myself, at everything, and Shelby, I'm genuinely, truly sorry." Surprise mingled gently with cautious hope, her sincerity undeniable yet unexpected. I felt quietly torn between protective boundaries and genuine openness. "I know words aren't enough," she continued nervously, voice trembling slightly, "but seeing you tonight the way you're helping people, it made me realize I don't want entitlement or privilege. I want authenticity too, and maybe, someday, a sister again, one I genuinely respect." I took a slow breath, heart softening gently despite protective caution. Yet, beneath caution lingered genuine compassion. Holly's vulnerability was undeniably brave, genuine. "Holly," I replied gently yet honestly, voice firm yet compassionate, "I appreciate your sincerity more than you know. Trust needs time, but I'm open to rebuilding authentically, slowly." Her eyes lit softly with cautious relief, voice genuinely grateful. "That's more than I deserve, but thank you truly." The brief yet powerful exchange lingered deeply, reaffirming my commitment not only to my boundaries, but my openness to genuine, authentic connections, even those born painfully from past mistakes. Days later, news quietly reached me that my parents and Garrett, unwilling or unable to face their accountability honestly, had quietly moved away, severing ties further. Their choice saddened, yet didn't surprise me. It reinforced my realization that not all relationships could heal without genuine reflection. Yet Holly's sincerity remained quietly hopeful, a small yet profound indication of the impact I'd unknowingly made, even on my harshest critics. Project Visible expanded quickly, powerful yet gentle, transforming not only careers, but lives. Invisio Financial's legacy evolved not merely into economic success, but emotional empowerment, shifting quietly from mere invisibility into profound visibility, strength, and authentic validation. One evening, standing quietly on my office balcony, the gentle city lights glittering warmly beneath velvet twilight skies, I received an unexpected call. Edie, whose mentorship remained invaluable, spoke warmly yet purposefully. "Shelby," she began thoughtfully, voice gentle yet meaningful, "you've truly reclaimed your legacy, not simply financially, but personally. You've shown the power hidden beneath invisibility, turning quiet strength into visible, meaningful impact." I smiled gently, her words resonating deeply. "I finally understand," I replied quietly. "My worth isn't defined by others, it's defined by impact, authenticity, and genuine self-respect." She chuckled softly, her pride unmistakable. "Exactly. You've reshaped your name, your legacy, not through force, but through authenticity. That, Shelby, is genuinely inspiring." The profound quiet of that evening lingered deeply, affirming gently the journey I'd undertaken, from silent to invisible provider to empowered visionary, reclaiming my family name meaningfully, powerfully. The true legacy I'd once desperately sought wasn't found in external validation or financial success alone. It was crafted gently, deliberately through quiet authenticity, genuine strength, and meaningful, purposeful impact. Invisibility had transformed gently yet powerfully into visible empowerment, a legacy defined not merely by wealth, but by the lives I'd quietly yet profoundly transformed, including, finally, my own. And now, authentically visible, firmly empowered, and genuinely peaceful, I knew exactly the legacy I'd leave behind. A legacy of quiet strength, authentic visibility, and undeniable, unwavering self-worth. Standing quietly at the edge of the stage overlooking the bustling crowd at Envision Financial's annual celebration, I felt something remarkable settled deeply within me, a peace I'd never thought possible. The room was filled not just with clients and colleagues, but with the quiet, powerful connections I'd cultivated by finally choosing authenticity over invisibility. As the gentle hum of conversations flowed around me, I reflected thoughtfully on the long, turbulent journey that brought me here. My family's harsh dismissal, the humiliating gala that had paradoxically freed me, the quiet strength I'd discovered beneath invisibility, all leading directly to this moment, rich with fulfillment. Nearby, Holly mingled warmly with Project Visible's newest participants, her growth genuine, deeply evident in her sincere interactions. Our careful rebuilding had gradually blossomed into cautious yet genuine sisterhood, a quiet reconciliation rooted deeply in mutual respect, authenticity, and genuine growth. Bryce and Edie chatted comfortably near the bar, each deeply engaged, yet occasionally glancing warmly my way, their pride quietly evident. Envision Financial had grown exponentially, not simply as a powerful financial enterprise, but as an authentically grounded force, driven gently yet firmly by clarity and sincerity. My family name, once heavy with entitlement and manipulation, had quietly transformed into a legacy of genuine strength, authenticity, and profound impact. The peace I'd finally found wasn't fleeting, it was rooted deeply, gently protected by the boundaries I'd carefully yet confidently constructed. As I stepped quietly onto the stage, the room gradually settled, conversations softly subsiding into attentive silence. Hundreds of faces turned expectantly toward me, each filled gently yet genuinely with respect, support, and anticipation. Taking a slow, gentle breath, I spoke clearly yet thoughtfully, each word powerful in its quiet sincerity. Tonight, looking around this room, I see more than success. I see authenticity, strength, and genuine empowerment. Each one of you has inspired me deeply, reminding me that our true worth isn't defined externally, but internally, by authenticity, respect, and genuine self-worth. Quiet nods of agreement rippled warmly through the crowd, each face reflecting gentle yet profound resonance. I've learned, I continued softly, voice steady yet deeply sincere, that invisibility isn't weakness, it's simply potential, waiting patiently to become visible. For anyone still struggling silently, I promise, your true strength lies waiting quietly within. When you choose authenticity over silence, your power becomes undeniable. Applause erupted gently yet warmly, the sincerity palpable. Yet before stepping back, I offered a quiet yet heartfelt invitation to the crowd. If my journey resonated deeply with you, I continued softly, sincerity resonating gently, please share your stories. If you faced something similar, struggled invisibly, fought for your self-worth, reclaimed authenticity, I'd love to hear from you. Let's build visibility together. Warm murmurs of agreement flowed gently, the quiet yet powerful call to action resonating profoundly. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear it's perfectly okay to define success authentically, courageously, and entirely on your terms. Stepping quietly down from the stage, applause gently following, I felt profound satisfaction. Envision Financial's celebration continued gently, the atmosphere authentic, supportive, deeply sincere. Late that evening, comfortably settled in my peaceful apartment, city lights glittering gently beyond expansive windows, I reflected deeply yet softly. The quiet peace I'd finally discovered wasn't fleeting, it was profoundly stable, anchored securely in genuine authenticity. My journey had begun invisibly, painfully burdened by expectation, dismissal, and quiet resentment. Yet through powerful yet gentle choices, claiming authenticity, drawing boundaries firmly yet compassionately, I'd transformed invisibility into undeniable strength. For anyone quietly suffering beneath expectations or invisibility, my message was clear, gently yet firmly spoken. You're never genuinely invisible. Your strength, quietly waiting beneath silence, can transform authentically into undeniable empowerment when you choose authenticity, sincerity, and self-worth. My peace, finally achieved, wasn't mere absence of turmoil, it was profound internal validation, rooted deeply in genuine authenticity. Envisio Financial's legacy, the relationships I'd cultivated, my renewed family bonds, all emerged gently yet powerfully from the quiet choice of living authentically. Tonight, reflecting softly beneath gentle city lights, I realized fully, profoundly, that validation wasn't external, it was internal. The peace I felt was profound, unwavering, and deeply empowering, protected gently yet fiercely by authenticity. My family had once controlled my visibility, yet tonight I quietly reclaimed it, visible, authentic, powerful, and finally undeniably myself. This peace, profound, stable, deeply authentic, was finally mine, quietly achieved yet firmly protected, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever diminish its gentle yet profound power again.